Florida Senator Rick Scott is a big believer in cancel culture. Well, wouldn't you believe it, right? Wouldn't you know it? A supposedly free speech Republican now in favor of cancel culture. In fact, here he is speaking about Disney with Maria Bartiromo. Take a look.
Well, I haven't seen any numbers yet. I mean, I got rid of my Disney Plus. I'm not planning on going back to the park. But these companies, it doesn't make any sense. They'll sit here and they'll criticize us in America, but then they'll go to China and they'll allow. It's okay that China puts 1 million people in prison for their religion, takes away the basic rights of Hong Kong citizens, and they'll be glad. Delta will be glad to fly in there and say they're great. You know, promote China. Disney will go out and do business in China, say nothing over there. But then they want to criticize us for doing logical things. Children should not be taught about sex in school. It's pretty basic. I think everybody should agree on that.
Well, sex in school or sex when you're in kindergarten? I mean, I think the issue that we're talking about is kindergarten to the 3rd grade, right?
Absolutely. These little kindergartens, I've got grandkids. They shouldn't be, our teachers in school shouldn't be teaching them about sex. That doesn't make any sense. It's a parent's responsibility. The parents, it's a parent's kids. It's not Disney's kids. It's not the school's kids.
Okay. All right. So before I get into Rick Scott and some of the ridiculous things that he's saying, because wow, that segment went from like, oh, you know, I canceled Disney Plus, and you know, by the way, sex in school. Whoa. Okay, all right. But first, let me just address how Maria Bartiromo, is she like drunk? She looks drunk. Like, I don't understand. Okay, somebody's got to check under that woman's desk. There's a flask. There has to be. There's like a 40-ouncer or flask or just, well, I mean, it's Fox News, so probably just like a bottle of wine or something. There's got to be something under that desk. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. She's totally, this person looks blasted. It really is amazing. And she wouldn't be the only one, by the way. Jeanine Pirro also makes me think of, I mean, they're both like, have to be consistently drunk. I just, it's so obvious. Absolutely wasted. I don't know, maybe that's a prerequisite of working at Fox News for so long. In order to stomach what you're doing, you just have to lay down a fifth. I don't know. All right, but anyway, nonsense point aside, let's go into substance, right? And not substance abuse. I think the obvious point here is nobody's teaching children, kindergartners, sex in school. Now, there is a big difference between sex and gender. And that, of course, sex and gender education as well. Very different things. Now, there's a difference between also teaching sex and teaching sex ed. Okay? Now, in Florida, very likely their sex ed is abstinence-only education. I thought they were in favor of that. I mean, again, that's generally in a lot of Republican states, red states, it's abstinence-only sex education. Just don't do it. There's your sex ed lesson. So in what Florida schools are they teaching sex? And what does that have to do with Disney? Nothing. So look, again, by the way, if you also think gender and sex are the same, well, you're just objectively wrong. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And let me give you an example of why, right? So, for example, if you were to teach sex in school to little children, which, again, I'm against teaching sex, because what would that look like? That would look like somebody teaching kids. How do you do it? Oh, here's how you do missionary. Here's how you do it from behind. No, nobody wants that in schools. Nobody's in favor of teaching that to children. No. That's not it at all, and it's not happening. Now, of course, the conflation here is sex and gender. What gender education is about is saying, I'm pointing out that, say Johnny has two dads. So Janie has a dad and a mom. Johnny has two dads. Okay? But little Billy has two moms. And that's it. Wow. And what they really, really hate is somebody saying, well, here you have Jane, but Jane was born a boy, but now identifies as a girl. And we call that transgender. That's really it. That's really it. If you're conflating sex and gender, again, you're either ignorant and you just don't know, or you have an agenda. Now, going to who has an agenda, it's Rick Scott. Now, Rick Scott's agenda is to get elected and to get reelected, to continue to hold on to power so that he can stuff more public money into his pockets. That's it. Now, in order to maintain that power, obviously you have to trick the citizenry into voting for you. Because what he's doing is taking that money. Where do you think he's getting that money? Not just from corporations, but also, again, public taxpayer money going into his pockets. And so he's got to trick people into giving him that power to pick their pockets. And so he uses ignorance and bigotry. That's it. And by the way, this is related to why everyone now in the Republican Party is basically throwing out groomer allegations to everyone. Now, by the way, groomers are, by definition, people who try to establish an emotional connection with a child and sometimes the family with the objective of doing sexual abuse to said child. Now, do you understand what that means? You understand the implications of the allegations of calling everybody that you disagree with a groomer. Because what they're doing, especially in Florida, is accusing everybody, teachers, parents of trans children, or who are against the bill. And that's what they've said, by the way. Gay, trans adults, Libs of TikTok, for example, was famous for doing this. And by the way, Libs of TikTok also busted doxing these people. And now apparently calling Disney groomers themselves, the company. And by the way, I'm not pro-Disney, right? No, Disney's a giant corporation. And so on the left, we're not exactly in favor of giant multinational corporations and their special deals. Okay? Now, that said, Disney ignored this for some time, and they continue to give money to politicians in order to keep special tax breaks. That's what they do. Now, over time, of course, people working at Disney, people who are LGBTQ+, they saw what was going on in Florida, and they basically caused a shitstorm. That's it. They caused a shitstorm at Disney, and of course you had public pressure. Finally, like, oh, okay, fine. We'll put out this kind of lukewarm statement that says we're not in favor of bigotry or anything like that. And that was enough. That was enough for every conservative to lose their shit. But again, before that, they would give all this money to Republican politicians who would then push anti-LGBTQ bills. And by the way, Disney would also stifle their own talented people, their own talented workers, in order to appease the right. And so now, of course, they would do that. What's the number one thing that corporations, or I should say reason that companies will do something? Well, they're going to do it for the money. They have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize value for their shareholders. That's it. And so before, they were anti-gay because that's where the culture was, and so that's where the money was. They didn't want to offend people. Now, turns out, society is a lot more accepting. That's a good thing, generally. And so companies have followed suit. And so supporting gay people, supporting the LGBTQ community is the more profitable thing to do. So now it's important to point this out because there are people out there that will hold companies as paragons of virtue just for doing the right thing. At the end of the day, I'm glad they're doing the right thing, but they're also doing it for one simple reason: money. That's it. money. Now, Scott, by the way, he goes on to talk about China. Now, why bring that up? Well, it's because China happens to be a huge market for television. And for streaming services specifically, right? Like Disney Plus. And we've seen companies, Blizzard included, ignore a lot of what's going on in China as a result of the money. Now, here's the irony, right? So he talks about, well, why don't they do that with China? Because China's more authoritarian. These companies can't sit there and criticize China because China, and this is, you know, this is where the irony plays into this, right? So these companies can't criticize China because China will just shut them down. So they can't do business in China. And so they don't do that here in America generally, right? And so companies in America have much more freedom than they do in China. And yet, Rick Scott and DeSantis specifically are like, no, actually, we want the United States to be more like China and shut down these companies because we don't agree with them politically. And that's it. And so total irony that you have more freedom here and that you have conservatives bitching about these companies that have more freedom. I wish they didn't have the freedom that they have in America, but we're the pro-freedom party. Bullshit. It's all projection. All right. Now, by the way, to show you their hypocrisy, we go to Ron DeSantis, right? Ron DeSantis is using the government to come after Disney. Now, they did it in a very ham-handed way, which actually might benefit Disney in the long run. So what they did is that they removed the special tax status of Disney. And also the self-government, right? Now, removing the district is going to be a financial mess for the people that are living there. And it could end up transferring about $2 billion worth of debt from Disney, the company, to the taxpayer in Florida. Oh, that's ironic. So to punish Disney, you're basically forgiving $2 billion worth of debt, of Disney's debt. And it doesn't go away, it goes to the taxpayer. Now, the Reedy Creek District was basically running its own little community. They paid for the services like water, sewage, garbage, etc. Now that's going to go back to the taxpayers following the midterm election. And that's the other thing, right? So the Reedy Creek District is set to expire in 2023, right after the midterm elections. And so it's not going to blow up beforehand. And maybe the politicians are like, well, we know it's going to blow up, so we're just going to do it. We're going to wait until after the midterms for it to kick in. I don't know. That is interesting. But what it lacks in, of course, punishing Disney does make it look like Republicans are taking out a big woke corporation. So it actually tricks their voters into thinking that they're doing something for the culture wars. But in reality, these people who supported the Republicans and support this effort are just ensuring that they're going to pay more in the long run. And so, oops. That's what happens when hate and bigotry cloud your judgment. When you allow these politicians to use hate and bigotry, and when you shut off your brain and let them do it. Republicans think you're so dumb that you think that this is going to help you and hurt Disney. Wrong. It also shows, interestingly enough, that Republicans will actually be tough on on corporations if the corporation stops giving them money. DeSantis is an absolute hypocrite. He's going to use the power of big government, and he has used the power of big government to retaliate against a business that stopped giving him political donations and opposes him in the culture wars. So all this talk about being pro-business, pro-freedom, anti-corruption, all projection, all complete bullshit.